Our thanks to Frederick Pike. And just imagine standing there and Russian tanks going right by you. Ivo Daalder was the U.S. ambassador to NATO under President Obama. He is the co-author of The Empty Throne, America's Abdication of Global Leadership. Thank you for coming on, Ambassador. Do you believe NATO should have greater involvement in this conflict?
Well, I think NATO has decided, the United States has decided not to be directly involved. I think history will tell whether that was the right decision. If there was an involvement, it should have happened earlier in order to deter the attack in the first place. But clearly, politics at home and politics abroad suggested that the concentration of NATO is on defending NATO territory and not Ukraine. That doesn't mean we can't do much more to help the Ukrainians. And indeed, the U.S. is sending much more equipment, and now we even have the German government sending Stinger missiles and anti-tank weapons in order to help the Ukrainians defend themselves. They certainly have a right to defend themselves, and we ought to help them as best we can.
How significant is it that Germany will send weapons to Ukraine?
I think it's very significant. Germany, under its own laws, doesn't allow the shipment of armaments to nations in conflict, and it was one of the reasons it refused for so long to provide lethal aid to the Ukraine back in 2014 and 15 when Russia first invaded Ukraine. The Germans led the effort to prevent the delivery of even defensive lethal equipment. They've now turned 180 degrees. They're ready to help the Ukrainians with significant capabilities that are going to help the Ukrainians stem these tanks that we were just seeing. And make sure that they don't reach their intended target. So it is significant for Germany to do that. Of course, following on the right decision to halt the Nord Stream 2 pipeline, gas pipeline to Russia as well.
How much do you think the calculation by NATO countries to not put boots on the ground in Ukraine, how much of the calculation is due to the fact that Russia is a nuclear power that has significant capabilities on that front and the cyber front and many other ways?
Yeah, I think you have to be realistic. Who is it that you are countering? And when it comes to Russia, the largest military power in Europe with significant nuclear weapons capabilities, and a leader who has repeatedly threatened to use nuclear weapons, including as recently as a couple of days ago, you got to be careful. And then you also have to look at interests, and clearly the Russian interest in Ukraine is significant. That's why it went to war. And you have to compare that with the U.S. and NATO interest in preventing that war. When you balance all out, it's a tough decision. And President Biden, like others, has made the decision that directly engaging in this conflict is not the right thing to do. At the same time, let's find other means to counter the Russians, whether it's through sanctions, whether it's through beefing up NATO, and of course helping the Ukrainians in order to ensure that whatever happens today or tomorrow, in the end, this becomes a failure for Vladimir Putin.
That is clearly the goal. They've made it clear they're looking at the long game too, making this a failure to Vladimir Putin. If Russian forces topple Ukraine's government, can Russia manage to maintain control over Ukraine?
Well, it's going to be very, very difficult. We're already finding that the Russians are having some problems actually even gaining control of parts of Ukraine, let alone the capital. But once it is in control, once it has occupied it, we clearly have a Ukrainian population that has been mobilized in order to counter a foreign occupation. Just recall what happened in 2003. The United States invaded Iraq, very quickly toppled Saddam Hussein and the regime. And today we're still even there because a major insurgency kept us there for many, many years. I think that's what we're going to be seeing, and I wouldn't be surprised to see the United States and other NATO countries helping the Ukrainians in that insurgency to make sure that the cost of the Russian invasion is going to continue to grow so that Russia at one point or another understands that it needs to reverse course.
I'm going to get to this viewer question about the sanctions. This viewer asks, why did the U.S. government exempt almost all forms of Russian energy from its sanction list? Energy is a massive export for Russia. If we truly cared, wouldn't we be cutting off that lifeline as well?
Well, the problem is that, of course, that we don't rely on much Russian energy. The U.S., we import some oil. It's the Europeans who are highly reliant, particularly on gas, Some countries get 100% of their gas for electricity and heating from Russia. To turn it off means, to fact, have no electricity and no heating. It's the middle of winter in Europe, and having countries make that decision is just one that is too difficult. At the same time, it once again underscores the incredibly importance of Europe to reduce its dependence on Russian energy, to start looking for alternative sources of gas. Just last month, for the first time, more gas came through liquefied natural gas, LNG, ports and ships, was imported into Europe than came through the Russian pipelines. That's where the future lies. And over time, Europe will have to need less Russian gas. And at that point, cutting it off from the rest of the world is the right thing to do.
Ambassador Ivo Daalder, thank you.
My pleasure.